Welcome to Moms Who Lead, where each week I talk to another mom who's balancing motherhood with a leadership role at work. Across industries, locations, and backgrounds, we're all facing the same challenges and opportunities. We talk about them here to help you balance your most important job with your career. So many of us have stories to share and advice to give. Be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. And be sure to connect with me, Diana Mitchell, on LinkedIn. Now, on to the show. I'm so happy that Heidi Green is here. Heidi is a very savvy marketing and communications VP in staffing and HR tech, and she's got a really important story to share. So thank you so much for being here, Heidi.
Thank you, Diana. I'm really excited to be here and talking with other moms and business leaders about the topic of motherhood and parenting while working and leading.
Yeah, this is an important one. It's personal to me, and I know it's personal to you. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and, of course, your child? You have one, and your career, and just let us know a little bit about yourself.
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Heidi Green. I've been in the HR tech and staffing industries for almost a decade now. It's an industry that I love. I'm really passionate about it. And I am a mom. I have a 2-year-old. He is forever going to be an only child. So I love working. I love being a mom, and trying to find a balance between the two is really important to me, as it is, I think, with most moms and working parents.
And you're looking for a new role right now. You're looking for the next challenge, right?
I am. I'm up and looking for my next challenge where I can really dig in and make an impact.
Awesome. Scoop her up, guys. Scoop her up. So tell us a little bit about yourself. So your son is 2, and where were you in your career? Can you kind of set the scene a little bit for where you were?
So my son is now 2. However, I knew that when I wanted to have children, I was going to have to take a little bit of a different path than a lot of people. I was going to have IVF when that time came. So I kind of stepped back. I was working at a global organization, doing staffing, recruiting, marketing, communications. And I decided that I wanted to have a baby, and I knew it was going to be challenging emotionally, physically, mentally. So I decided to take what I thought was a step back into a smaller role, still leading a marketing department, but I thought it wouldn't be as challenging. I would be able to balance both. It was going to be a nice fit for this transition in my life. So we're going through IVF, and I don't know if many of our listeners out there know what that process entails. It's different for everybody, but it usually requires a lot of procedures and surgeries and things like that. So I was actually having surgery as part of my IVF plan. And I told my boss, who's the CEO, I was like, I'm going to be out. I'm having surgery. And he's like, well, you need to come in as soon as your surgery is over that day. Your team can't be without you. There's just too much work to do. And I was like, okay, I'm having a surgery to get ready to have a child. I hired adults because they can handle themselves and they don't need a babysitter. They know what work needs to be done. So at that time, I knew that having a baby was really important to me, and this job was not. So I had to make a change. And I went back to my consulting business. I've had my own consulting business for a long time. I've always done it on the side, even if I was employed by organizations, but I knew I had to leave that role and focus on having this baby. My clients were really supportive, much more so than my boss at the time was ever going to be. So they supported me through the journey, and they were excited to hear the great things that were going on. They were encouraging when things maybe weren't looking so great. So that's what I did to become a mom.
And now I'll be a little more direct in this because because it's not my experience, but it is crazy and mind-boggling to me that any employer would think it's appropriate to have told you had to come back the same day after having surgery. And I think this is an important lesson. I feel like even in the last 2 years, the employers have kind of woken up a little bit, and they're seeing that employees need to be treated more like complete human beings and seeing outside of that. But What would you say to a business who's looking to employ, the best talent, which is going to include parents and moms and people who are going through unique paths to becoming parents? Well, what kind of advice would you give them to create a more supportive environment than the one that you received?
Well, I think first of all, kind of hitting on what you just said, you need to treat everybody like they're a human. That's at the end of the day what everyone is. Everyone's a human. We're all the same, no matter what we look like, what our gender is, any of that. We're all humans. And just having human decency towards each other and kindness and trusting that people are going to get their work done if they miss a day. Although everyone should be entitled to some PTO or sick days for sure, but just acting as if there's someone in your family. Like, you don't have to love them as you might have to love people in your family, but you do have to like support them and, kind of help take care of them in a sense. And telling someone, oh, you're having surgery today. Well, I need you to rush right back after. Number one, that's actually against the law. If you have anesthesia, they make you sign a consent saying you're not going to go back to work that day. You're not going to operate heavy machinery or drive a car or any of that stuff. So there's legal reasons as well as just, being a kind human. I did want to share the second half of that story. So I did get pregnant during this IVF time, which was a blessing. And I had the opportunity to have a meeting with a client that I thought I was going to be doing some consulting work for. I had the meeting with them and they were like, we need you full time. Consulting's just not going to work. So obviously I was so excited to be getting an opportunity. It was in the HR tech space. I was going to be the VP of marketing, exactly really what I wanted to do. And I was really excited. And I was like, well, even though you don't have to disclose this to potential employers, I felt like it was in my best interest because I'm an honest person and I like to be transparent about everything. So I was like, well, I'm pregnant. I'm going to be going out on maternity leave in a little while. I have extreme morning sickness that requires me to go to the hospital and get IV treatments regularly. I am having a high risk pregnancy, so I go to the doctor at least twice a week. So are you sure you still want to hire me? And they did, which was great. And I don't think it was out of the legality of it. I think they truly wanted to. And they supported me through my journey of having my baby and even during my maternity leave and when I came back. So it has a happy ending for employers there. But I just hope that other people who are going through similar situations have that from the beginning and they don't have to go find it. And that if they are in a situation where they aren't being respected and they aren't being treated fairly and they aren't getting the support they need, that they think about themselves first. I know it's hard if you rely on a child for money, like most of us do, to kind of put yourself first. But in this case, for me, it was really important that I had this baby. That was my top priority. So I hope that others just keep that in mind for themselves and don't feel like you're being selfish because you deserve to be happy too, not just working.
And I'm with you. I would rather bring up the fact that I have a young daughter or if I was pregnant and let employers know that, because I also don't want to work for you if you don't want me. Like, I know my life's going to be miserable if I'm working for you and you don't like that I have a child. We all know it's illegal, but places get away with it. And so I think it's better for everyone involved to have that conversation too. And now that actually kind of leads nicely into the next part of this, because we're both marketers and it's impossible not to look at this through a marketing lens. So we're looking at recruitment marketing and just marketing in general and employer branding. And I think this is critical in that so many organizations fail to create a culture that actually aligns with their employer brand. There's disparity there, or they fail to leverage their positive culture appropriately in their employer branding. So what about from that lens, and I know it can be hard sometimes to separate, your personal experience and the marketer, but I know you can do it and put on that marketer hat. Like, what kind of advice would you give? Like, let's say you're an HR tech company right now, and you're like, hey, we have a really cool environment for moms. What would you tell them on to start with on how to leverage that?
Yes, so I think you bring up an excellent point. Right now, employer branding is all the buzzword that you hear about, but it's really important. Every company should be doing it. So if a company does feel like they have an excellent place for moms to work, they need to be emphasizing that in their employer branding. I know working with companies on their employer brand, working with different consulting clients, people might think they have an employer brand and they make a shiny web page that says all these great things about their employer brand. And especially when they're kind of just getting into thinking about having one, like, oh, we need a great career site that lists all of our great benefits and how we're so great to work for. And well, yes, that's a part of it, but you can't just write that on a web page. You actually have to live that out every day. So I like to say that an employer brand is the sum culmination of both your employee experience and the culture in which your organization provides. So you need to have that culture that supports great employee experiences, especially for moms. So you need to have the culture of flexible working hours, remote work, trusting that the people you've hired are going to do their job and get their job done, even if it doesn't fit perfectly into the 9 to 5 mold, as some would say. So I think that companies can really leverage this opportunity and work on their employer brand. But if they don't have the organization procedures and policies in place, and it's really not a great place to work, your employer brand isn't going to be that successful. They all three need to be working together to really create this great culture and great atmosphere and to highlight in your employer branding.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to affect everything. It's going to affect your referrals. It's going to affect your online reviews. And, candidates can sniff that out. Like, especially in this day and age, earlier in the pandemic, those first few months, all the employers were like, haha, we've got you now. Like, it flipped. But that didn't last very long. And so, talent's sitting in the catbird seat, so to speak. That's for the English majors out there. And and now they don't just want these things, they expect them. And they expect you to have all of your ducks in a row and to be authentic and live that brand. And they're not going to give you the time of day without it. And so I completely agree. Go through the process, get the right people in place to help you develop and hone that brand and then execute in the messaging. Because without it, you're not going to get the caliber of talent that you're hoping for. And particularly in this remote environment, it's like a snowball effect on your culture and just everything goes downhill from there. Oh, that's good stuff.
True. Yes.
It's important. And I think through this lens of moms and bringing in the humanity, I think it was an important one to discuss. Now, changing gears a little bit, everybody go into a Facebook group for moms and there's no shortage of advice or opinions. But I'm curious, because we've all gotten tons of advice, from like the crazy, like mom stuff of like giving your kid gin when they're crying. I haven't done that and I don't recommend it in case anyone's wondering, but like the wacky stuff, but then there's some really good sage stuff. And we've had some really nice nuggets of wisdom shared so far. We're still early, so I'm not putting any pressure on you, but I'm curious what kinds of advice you've gotten that have really stuck with you or that you like to remember when you're feeling harried and crazy, because we all do. But what's that best piece of advice you've ever gotten as a mom?
Yes. So I used to work my first job in staffing. Actually, I had a really great mentor and boss. She was the president of the company. She really took me under her wing to teach me a bunch of stuff and to challenge me and push me towards things that I didn't know that I could do, which has led me here to being here today. So she used to tell me, because I would want to do everything. We had 3 brands that I was responsible for, plus I was working with our parent company. And I wanted to do all this stuff and I wanted to do it all right now. And she used to tell me, Heidi, you can do it all, but you can't do it all at the same time. And that just has stuck with me through everything in life, especially, being a working mom and trying to balance working and being a great mom. So I want to be a great leader and a great member of team and to lead people in the organization. But I also want to be a great mom and leader at home. And spend that quality time with family. So I remind myself I can do it all, but I can't do it all at the same time. So something that has helped me is when I'm working, I'm hyper focused on work. And then when I'm not working and I'm home, I'm hyper focused on being home with family. And obviously, sometimes those two things run into each other. Work isn't always 9 to 5. There's sometimes big deadlines and things that have to happen outside those hours. And being a mom isn't a 5 to 9 job either. kids fall and get hurt. Just last week, I had to take mine to get his elbow put back into place after he fell. So, and that happened during the workday. So I had to work a little bit later at night to catch up on that. But that's how things go. And I think that's really important as moms to know that you can do both. You just can't necessarily do both at the same time. And for employers to recognize that, okay, my employee has to go out and be a mom right now, but I know that when she gets back and things are, okay with her kid, she's going to put in that extra effort and make up those hours to make sure that she's keeping her projects and everything on schedule. So I think it's just finding the right balance and knowing and having confidence in yourself that, yes, you can do both, and don't let anyone else tell you otherwise.
Absolutely. And, that's just another, since I'm like sharing my thoughts on the topics of LinkedIn lately, I saw something yesterday too. And someone was talking about like, should employers like cut pay for work from home, or should, and it just made me think of what you're saying. At the same time, I think that employers need to worry less about the time that you're in the seat versus the output. So if you're hitting your goals and your work is, who cares if you're not sitting at your desk for 8.5 hours every day? I think that is the most antiquated notion of our workforce today. If you're getting your work done, they shouldn't care,
That's true. I've never believed in like counting hours for anybody, for myself, for people who work for me. That's just dumb. It's a silly metric. At the end of the day, are you hitting these goals? Are you helping the company? Are you bringing more revenue to the table? Let's see if you're impacting change. Not, okay, you sat here in your office chair for 8 hours every day, Monday through Friday, for the past year. Excellent. That automatically means you're a top performer. No, that does not mean that. So I don't know why companies still try to make people feel like they need to be sitting in that chair no matter what.
And we've all worked with someone who was like the first person and the last person out, but they didn't get anything done all day. Like, give me a break. I know you said you're looking for new opportunities. Can you let us know how to get in touch with you if someone wants to talk?
Absolutely. So you can find me on Twitter at HLH Green. I'm also on LinkedIn. If you search Heidi Howell-Green, I'll come up. And then obviously when you see this podcast, those links should be there for you. And I look forward to connecting with other moms and other business leaders, especially if they want to learn more about employer branding or any of the sort.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. That was great. This is a good talk and it was important. And I think you shared a lot of personal stories and insight that will really help a lot of people. So thank you.
Well, I hope so. Thank you, Diana.
All right. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Thanks for sitting in with us this week. My hope is that you feel supported, understood, and heard. I appreciate that you took the time to be here. Let me send a quick shout out to our subscribers who join me here every week. I am so honored. And if you haven't already, be sure to connect with me on LinkedIn. My URL is linkedin.com/in/Diana Mitchell 716. Are you a mom who's leading? Is there absolutely someone you want to hear me talk to on the show? Please let me know. Send me an email to dmitchell@ssipeople.com. Take care out there, everyone.